awesome. Hey there, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy Heroes video. I'm Zuko.
And I'm Exum.
And this is The High Ground. Alright guys, so today's video is all about Zetas. Zetas. It's all about the Zetas. So we're going to be going through the Zetas all on SWGOH.GG.
And it's specifically only the unique
Zetas. Yes. We're going to talk about them, give our impressions on their Zeta.
And how we think they can be effective in this raid.
Yes. This is going to be tailored to this new Sith Raid because it has been, absolute hell for a lot of people. So we're definitely going to talk about them and give you guys our impressions on them.
So just want to clear that up.
If you guys want to see the leadership Zetas, you can go watch our other video. We came out with a video and it's all about leadership Zetas. Alright guys, so we're going to start off, and the first on our list is Asajj Ventress. In Rampage, she gains 75% turn meter gain chance, she has 5% offense, 5% critical chance, and when any ally or enemy is defeated, Asajj gains 5% max health until the end of the encounter. So, based on what we just read, I honestly think this is a great Zeta to have for this raid. If you go back to our other video on the leadership Zetas, we talked about Asajj as well. And one of the biggest things about almost every one of those leaderships that we had and all those Zetas is that in this raid, it's all about health. It's all about regaining health and all about regaining protection. So if you can be doing that for this raid, it would be huge. It would really help out and it would really give you guys the ability to make it to the enrage meter. That's what this raid is all about. If you can make it up there and do as much damage as possible, especially with someone like Asajj who's constantly gaining offense, that's a great Zeta to have.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of her Zeta. It takes the 25% chance to gain 35% turn meter to 100% chance to gain turn meter. It does the offense bonus, and every time you can kill her minions, you're getting
exactly
a stacking. What is it?
Offense. Yeah.
So it's wonderful.
A great Zeta. All right. So second we have
Barriss
Offee. Oof.
So
okay.
this is swift recovery.
Alright guys, so what this is going to offer is whenever an ally is critically hit, they recover 20% of their max health. This is a shout out to our boy Cubs fan. We know this is his favorite Zeta. He Zeta'd Barriss last week. No, he didn't. He hates it. But it is, in our opinion, still a pretty darn good Zeta to have. I think, at least in my opinion, anytime you can gain health in this raid, anytime that you can ensure that your team is not dying quickly, it is a good investment.
Yeah.
I will not be doing it. But I do think it's a good investment.
Yeah, I've checked. The raid bosses do critically hit you, especially Scion. So it's going to be useful. Don't think that, oh, but what if they don't critically hit you? No, they do. So you're going to be gaining 20% max health. We harped on it in our leadership video about how important gaining health and protection and all that stuff is. So Barriss Offee is a great Zeta. The next one we have is BB-8's Roll with the Punches. And what it does is when a BB-8 attacks out of turn, he calls a random resistance ally to assist. So this is a unique Zeta that you should already have if you have RJT. It's part of the whole Trinity deal. It's part of the Resistance team. It's pretty much required. So that's when it comes down to. You're not going to stick this on BB-8 unless you have Rey Jedi training, to tell you the truth. So that's when you do have her, this unique is a must-have.
This unique is a little bit of a double-edged sword in the sense that if you're going, which we recommend using RJT in Phase 1 and Phase 2, in Phase 1 it can be a little bit of an issue because if you're calling BB-8 to assist with RJT and he hits and then he calls another assist, that's two basics that you're using on the raid boss. And as you know, Nihilus gains an incredible amount of buffs every time you hit him with a basic. So it can be a little bit of a double-edged sword in that sense. It can hurt you a little bit, but at the same time,
it helps you do damage.
She's hitting for so much. She's hitting for 25, 30,000 with this ability. So I do think the pros outweigh the cons. So I would definitely, I'd say for this raid and for RGT in general, this is a must-have.
The next unique we have is BB-8's self-preservation protocol. So this is when BB-8 evades, which you know he has a chance
constantly
to have foresight. Droid allies recover 8% health and 8% protection. So for me, I got to thinking about this unique. It's not one that I have, but I was like, okay, how would this be useful? And I was thinking, what if you ran the droids as a team? What if you didn't have the veterans to unlock RJT, but you had the First Order to unlock BB-8? How can you use BB-8 effectively in the raid? And the way I found it was, I don't have a strong enough droid team.
No.
But what I actually did was I put in all the droids with just BB-8 to test it out, give it a go run. I retreated. And Illuminated Destiny was going off like that.
Of course.
So if you can have high enough droids, like high enough gear, and you can have Illuminated Destiny going off, and you have this where whenever he's evading and you're throwing R2 smoke screen on him, so you're making sure that he's the one that's evading, then you're regaining health and protection for the droids. So I feel like that can be useful in Phase 3, in Phase 2.
That's a really interesting team because I haven't seen anybody do a droid comp. And no. I think that can have some potential as long as you have that Zeta on BB-8 Unique. I don't know if droids will be able to do it without it. But
it's just theory craft.
Yeah, it's a theory craft. It might not work. You guys might, leave in the comment section that we're a bunch of idiots. But I mean, just based on what that looks like and what it can provide, and the fact that droids were a big part of HAT for a while. You never know. Maybe they could be a pretty good option in this phase as well, in this raid.
Next one we have is Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
I like this one for Phase 2 because against Scion you have his minions that you can kill and the 100% protection recovery huge. On a finishing blow.
That's true.
You got Boba Fett is going to make it to Enraged.
It's basically like Kylo Ren's Outrage, except a little bit different. It means you have to kill them. But definitely regaining protection constantly, especially in the second phase against Scion, because he's got all the minions around him. Also, maybe even the third phase with Traya. Apparently, that team works out pretty well. We had a guy in our guild actually do, I think it was 1.5 million damage using him with his Zeta, and it could actually really help you stay alive for a really long time. That's actually a very interesting Zeta, and we like it for phase 2 and 3. Yeah. All right, so next is Colonel Stark. We love Colonel Stark as a character, especially to run him in Imperial Trooper Squad. So this is what his Zeta reads. At the end of his turn, Stark recovers 3% protection and removes 1% turn meter from all enemies for each active Empire ally, doubled for Imperial Trooper allies. So again, Imperial Troopers can hit for about 2 to 3 million damage easy in this raid. So having something like that where they're constantly gaining those buffs is going to be great to have on your team for Imperial Troopers.
Yeah, and he's regaining protection, and he's removing turn meter. I mean, the turn meter depends on what phase you're using it. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but it's a Zeta that can be useful. I wouldn't put it towards the top of the important Zetas. This isn't a list of all top 10s or anything like that, but just giving you our opinions on each Zeta, and we think that it's a Zeta that can be useful in this raid.
And especially when you're gaining 3% protection. That's pretty...
At the end of each of his turns, he's going to be surviving towards Enrage. Again, that's the goal. Especially against Scion, if he's attacking you and you have stacking Cycle of Suffering, stacking Cycle of Pain, he's going to be hitting you hard. So all these protection regains are important. Like, you're trying to do as much damage as you can, which means surviving till the very end.
Exactly. Next
we have is CLS's Learn Control.
Yeah. Now, CLS's Learn Control. While Luke doesn't have call to action, he has a 50% critical avoidance and 10% tenacity. This is an interesting one. I think it's good in the sense that, again, against Scion and against Traya, you want to try to resist her stagger. You want to try to resist daze. You want to try to resist anything you can. Now, obviously, Scion's Cycle of Pain, you can't resist that. But it's an interesting Zeta. I think it has its uses. We talked about it in our leadership video. CLS does have a place in this raid, definitely, and I think that this Zeta will help him.
I think really when I looked at this unique, I was just like, I feel like a lot of people have it.
Yeah.
So talk about why it would be useful or what its use would be in the raid, and that's what it is. I think the 100% tenacity is really the important thing about it.
Next, we have CLS's It Binds All Things. Now, we all know that this is probably the first Zeta that people put on CLS. It's a fantastic Zeta, and it reads, whenever Luke resists a detrimental effect, he recovers 5% protection, and whenever Luke inflicts a debuff, he gains 10% turn meter, and all allies gain half that amount. This is fantastic to use. Again, if you're going against Traya, and if you're pairing this with Rebel maneuvers, you will be gaining protection constantly. Why? Because he's got 100% tenacity. So Treya's trying to hit him with the sabers to try to inflict.
With Learn Control.
With Learn Control, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
If you're trying to, if she's trying to put stagger, if she's trying to put daze, he's resisting all these detrimental effects. He's automatically gaining all that protection back.
So that's where it comes from. And again, it's another unique Zeta that we think people have.
Yeah.
So just what use does it have in this raid? Next,
and it definitely does have use.
Yeah. Next we have is Count Dooku's Zeta, Flawless Riposte or Riposte. Flawless Riposte.
Flawless
Riposte.
Riposte.
So plus 15% counter damage, recover 10% protection, and gain critical hit immunity for 1 turn on a counter attack.
With this unique, it really depends on what team you're running him on. If you're running under Nihilist lead, can't regain protection. So that kind of throws out, in my opinion, the best part of his Zeta right out the window.
But you're not always running him under a Nihilist lead.
True.
If you're running him under a Zeta lead in, say, Phase 3 against Traya and her lightsabers, then this can be very helpful. He's going to be attacking back. He gains critical hit immunity. The recovery of protection will give him some more survivability. I don't know how great this Zeta is. I wouldn't put it near the top, but I think that if you have it, it has a use in this raid.
It does. I to be totally honest with you, I think every character has a use in this raid.
I mean,
you're throwing the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
You're throwing everything at it all that you can, and I mean, it's not a bad Zeta. It's not one I would tell you to go invest in right now. Definitely not. But if you already have it on him for some reason, when you like Nihilist lead and you decide to try to throw it on him, then yeah, you do have a place in this raid.
The plus 15% counter damage is good. He already does like 65% plus damage on his counter. So.
Yeah, that's true. All right, next we have Darth Sidious. So Darth Sidious, Sadistic Glee. Now you have 100% turn meter gain chance, plus 50% potency, and gain max health equal to the potency percentage. I think that this is an interesting Zeta. I think it can work really well. There's one part of this Zeta that doesn't really make a lot of sense, and that's, at least in this raid, and that's the fact that he has 50% potency, in the sense that he's not going to be inflicting anything on these raid bosses. It's not going to happen. But what's great about that is that he gains max health equal to his potency percentage. So if you have a really high potency Darth Sidious, for some reason you have those mods on him from when you used to use him, it could help him survive a little bit longer. Also, the 100% chance of gaining the turn meter, now he has 100% chance to gain 50% turn meter whenever an enemy unit is defeated. So when you're facing all these little friends of the, what are they called? Minions, bro. You should be calling them all day.
When you're facing the minions and you're killing the minions, he's getting 50% turn meter. So there you go. He's attacking constantly. He's doing damage. Yeah. That's where we think this actual Zeta has its use. 100%. Trying to make him go faster, trying to get your damage in. And we think it has a place in this raid. All this is, guys, what this raid is going to be about, and what all these Zetas are about, are just finding the little tricks and trades that you can stick them in here and see how they do. Really, it all depends on the team that you're going to run each one of these characters with. You don't have to be generic. You don't have to run, what everybody else is running and only Empire and stuff like that. This new team that we talked about in our last video, that checks team, it's a bunch mix, yeah. It's a checks mix. It's a bunch of different characters together that they just make sense. So I think there is a place for Darth Sidious, definitely, and these other characters we've mentioned. Alright, so next we have First Order Stormtrooper. This is his return fire. So go ahead. So whenever First Order Stormtrooper uses an ability, he has a 50% chance to call a random ally to assist, dealing 50% damage unless they are First Order. Then grants them advantage for 2 turns if they were First Order. This is a unique that is going to be very integral to a First Order team, and as we mentioned in our last video, Crew's leadership is one of the best Zeta leaderships right now for the Sith Raid specifically. And First Order Stormtrooper is going to be an important part to that team. In the research that we did, First Order Stormtrooper is always in that team, and this Zeta leadership, this Zeta Unique is very useful. The ability to call a random ally to assist, and when they're First Order, they're not having a damage penalty, and if they're First Order, they get advantage. And what advantage does? It makes sure that you have a critical hit on your next attack. It's very useful for the First Order team that you're going to be running. That is very important in the Sith Raid. Think about it. You got either Panda or old school Kylo Ren hitting, and they're hitting critical hits every single time with advantage. That's an amazing amount of damage every single time. So I think that First Order Stormtrooper, is a fantastic tank anyway. So definitely, I like this. I like to pair him up with this First Order team. This Uniques has a lot of purpose. Yeah, and again, now the next one, First Order TIE Pilot's Keen Eye Unique. It has a 15% critical chance, plus 10% critical damage, and First Order TIE Pilot has a 70% chance to gain Foresight for 2 turns whenever he loses advantage. This is again just in mind. If you're gonna put him on a first order team, this unique can be very helpful. Plus percent, 15% critical chance, 10% critical damage.
Hard. He does it, and the fact that
gaining
his foresight. Oh,
that's huge. If you can ignore these hits by Sion, by Traya,
no,
you're gonna survive.
Don't put him against Traya.
No, you're
Traya
gonna focus
foresight
on Sion.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So it that would be more first order TIE pilot.
This is for the first
in
order
reality,
team.
really first order. They do well in
phase 2,
in 1, 2, and 3, like we said, but definitely phase 2 is where they're optimal. And that if you're going to be using first order TIE pilot and you're going to have that Zeta on him, I definitely suggest you put it in phase 2, because then you can obviously you can dodge and you can get away from Sion's attacks. And that's why I definitely think first order TIE pilot has a place with his Zeta. So if you had it already, if you needed to use it to help you get BB-8, stick him on that team. Fantastic team.
If you're building a first order team for your raid, then it's gonna be a useful Zeta.
Yeah.
Next one we have is General Veers.
Yeah.
I don't think this one needs a lot to be said, but it's an extremely useful unique. We know Imperial Troopers is one of the best factions for Sith Raid right now. They weren't mentioned in our last video because there's no Zeta leadership to them. It's just an Omega for General Veers.
Yeah.
But whether they're under General Veers, whether they're under Grand Admiral Thrawn, whether they're under Zeta, it doesn't matter. This unique for General Veers, Aggressive Technician, is extremely important. Recover 10% protection, as we've been saying, is very important. So whenever an enemy is defeated, you recover 10% protection, plus 20% offense up chance, and plus 60% turn meter gain chance. Veers is great because you can use him anywhere. Like once you get the Zeta, you can put him under any team.
Yeah, he's a great character right now, and those Imperial Troopers are one of the best, like you said, one of the best factions for this raid right now, and he offers so much for that team. Next is Thrawn. Thrawn's unique ability, Ebb and Flow. This is considered one of Thrawn's, best attributes. This is definitely the Zeta that people will give to Thrawn first, and it has good, purpose, and we think in this raid it can be useful. It's not, optimal really, but if you have it, it's definitely useful. So what it reads is, you get plus 50% counter chance and plus 50% tenacity, taking both of those up to 100 while enemies are fractured. We all know that this isn't like Arena, so these raid bosses can still attack you while they're fractured. So it can help against Traya, in our opinion, in the third phase, because he can constantly be hitting her back, countering her even while she's fractured and she's trying to attack him. His plus 50% tenacity, taking up to 100, can help him not get hit by her stagger or her daze whenever she tries to inflict those debuffs. So that really helps keep him, active and keep him hitting hard, which he does have, pretty good damage. So the last part about his Zeta is fractured enemies lose 15% turn meter. Now, this would be great if it was not resistible, but it can be resisted, so it's going to be very hard to be able to do that against any of these raid bosses. So really,
that's more for Arena.
Exactly. So what makes this Zeta, really, really good for this raid is definitely that 100% counter chance in phase 3 and that tenacity. You don't want to be really relying on that 100% counter chance in phase 1 when you're going to be feeding into Nihilus.
Yeah.
But definitely I think it has its place in phase 3 against Traya.
And counter chance also in phase 2 is extremely useful. Again, you're trying to do as much damage to Sion. Traya, the tenacity, 100% tenacity. At least you're not going to get dazed, so you can still continue counter chancing, like hitting her back. So it's a unique that a lot of people have. So how can it be useful? This is how we think it's useful for the raid.
Yes. Now, next,
Han Solo.
This is raid Han Solo. Guys, there is no doubt, there is no question that this Zeta is 100% worth it. I mean, this is what makes Han so good. This is what the Zeta reads. You have 10% critical chance, and the first time each turn Han uses his basic attack, he attacks again, dealing 50% less damage. Now, he spoke about it, Exum spoke about it in our last video in the leadership. If you're running Han in phase 3 against Traya, and you decide to do standalone with Han, you can be hitting upwards of 60,000-70,000 damage per hit. That is absurd.
Was shown in McMull's last video, the Chex Mix team. And that's absurd damage. What you want to do is you want to get in there, you want to do as much damage as possible, as quickly as possible, because you're going to get wiped out. It's going to happen. And Han Solo's shoot first just helps him keep attacking. It helps him do the 10% critical chance. It's one of the best Zetas in the game for all areas of the game, and it definitely has a place here in the Sith Raid.
And when he has that ability to attack 3 times in a row with his other special, I mean, you're talking about the fact that, you know, phase 2, 3, and 4, he is phenomenal. You know, he's going to be doing so much damage. He's going to be dealing a lot of damage. Don't use him against Nihilus because he's got a lot of, you know, his basic, yeah. You know, he's going to be hitting Nihilus twice. But in phase 2 through 4, Han Solo is an MVP for sure for your team, for your Rebel teams. Throw him with Chase, throw him with all those teams to make sure that he's gaining health constantly. Yeah. That's what we think is optimal. And definitely, I think you can be hitting with a lot of damage with Han Solo.
So, all right, guys. So that's going to be the end of this video. We're going to split this into 2 parts because when we went through the list, there was like 32 characters that we wanted to talk about specifically about their uniques and how those Zetas would affect the raid. Yeah, these uniques, we think they're helpful. We think they have a part in the raid. Just kind of wanted to give you our thoughts on them. I know that sometimes I want other people's opinions on Zetas and on if I'm thinking about something, I wonder if other people are thinking about it too. So that's kind of what this video is for, you know, a place where instead of you guys having to go on Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes yourselves and doing the research, maybe you can listen to us in the car or at work and get this knowledge, our opinions on this, and see for yourself and decide what you guys are going to do with your Zetas, because this is a crucial time. Yeah, you know, deciding what to farm for this new Sith Raid, because we all want Traya. The first people to get Traya is going to start
owning Arena.
Yeah, so messing stuff up in the game. So you want to be the first ones, or at least the top like 5% together. Yeah. So thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. I'm Exum. That's Zuko, and we'll see you guys next time here on the High Ground. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
You underestimate my power!
Don't try it! High ground! You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them! High ground! I loved you! High ground! High ground. It's not the high ground way. I mean the Jedi way. You know what I'm saying. I'm saying I've beaten you, and I'm on the high ground, so... High ground!